They found her hiding in the darkness of an abandoned wine cellar, clutching a bottle of poison. She was only 20 years old. 3 years earlier, he had been a child. Now he wore the jewels of an empress, the robes of Rome's most powerful woman, and carried a secret so grotesque that compared to the horrors awaiting in the Colosseum, death might have some. His name was Sporus, and what happened to him remains one of the most disturbing human transformations recorded in history. To understand this nightmare, we must first understand Emperor Nero. History remembers him as a tyrant who played the violin while Rome burned. Yet even among ancient Romans, what he did to Sporus shocked those who witnessed gladiators dying. Nero was not born a monster. At 16, Rome celebrated his reign. He lowered taxes, funded public games, and staged grand performances in theaters. But absolute power has no limits. When you rule over 60 million people, Then Nero fell in love. Her name was Poppaea Sabina. Ancient historians describe her with almost supernatural beauty. Amber hair like gold, pale, luminous skin. But her most striking feature, enormous doe-like eyes that Roman poets compared to. Nero did not just love Poppaea, he was passionately devoted. He divorced his first wife, married Poppaea amid scandal, and built his entire world around her. History calls him a monster, but he saw himself simply as a man in love. Rome, AD 65. A family argument about Nero's obsession with theater turned deadly. Sources differ. Some say a single kick to her pregnant belly. Others describe a brutal beating that left her on the marble floor in a pool of blood. Poppaea died within hours. Along with her, Nero's unborn child also perished. The most powerful man in the world had killed the only person he truly loved, with his own hands. What followed was no ordinary mourning. Nero lost touch with reality entirely. He refused to cremate her body. Instead, Poppaea was mummified with more spices than Arabia could produce in a year and placed in a crystal coffin. Palace servants witnessed Nero conversing with the corpse, setting her a place at dinner and asking her opinion on state affairs. He could not sleep without opium. Upon waking, he shouted her name. Her rooms were preserved exactly as she had left them. And then came the most disturbing behavior. Nero began seeing Poppaea everywhere. Slave girls, senators' wives, prostitutes. He would grasp women's faces, turning them toward the light, searching desperately for something that no longer existed. The imperial family watched in fear, hoping the madness would pass. Instead, it only intensified. In late 65 AD, while reviewing administrative appointments, a young freed slave was presented to Nero. The emperor looked up. Time seemed to stop. The boy, no older than 15, had eyes identical to Poppaea's, large, dark-lashed, the same delicate bone structure, even the same amber flecks catching the lamplight. Nero rose, scattering parchments to the floor. He circled the terrified child like a predator, but there was something else in his expression. A desperate hope, more terrifying than anger. What is your name? Sporus, Divine Augustus. Born in the imperial palace, educated in Greek and Latin, Sporus had been prepared for an administrative life. But in that moment, he ceased to exist as an individual. Nero examined his face, turning it to catch different angles of light. Finally, he withdrew with a smile described as the expression of a man who had discovered the secret of conquering death itself. Cancel today's appointments. Summon my personal physicians. We have work to do. Sporus was kept in luxurious rooms for days and subjected to exhaustive examinations. Artists who had painted Poppaea were summoned to make comparative sketches. Nero scrutinized every detail, planning meticulous changes. It was not merely about appearance. Sporus was trained to speak like Poppaea, to walk like her, to mirror every gesture, every movement. Imagine waking up every day to find your very identity erased. He was forbidden to use his own name. Servants addressed him as Madam or Mistress. His clothing was replaced with Poppaea's favorites. He learned the detailed makeup routines of a noble Roman woman. Then came the surgery. Nero's physicians, under threat of death if they refused, attempted to transform Sporus into a female form. The night before, Nero presented Poppaea's enormous emerald ring, encircled with pearls. Tomorrow you will be reborn. You will become the person you were always meant to be. Will it hurt? Sporus asked. Birth always causes pain, Nero replied. But what emerges is beautiful. The operation lasted hours. Screams carried down 3 corridors. Nero paced outside like a father awaiting a child's birth. Recovery was painstaking and slow, fraught with risk of infection. As Sporus healed, he was trained further. His gait, voice, gestures, and expressions were corrected to mimic Poppaea. Clothing, jewelry, and even perfume were replicated. He memorized every detail of her life: childhood, first marriage, social ascent, favorite foods, friends' names, even her views on poetry. When Nero recounted memories of Poppaea, Sporus responded as if he shared them. 6 months later, Sporus appeared publicly at a dinner party. Wearing Poppaea's distinctive purple dress, the room froze. Wine glasses hung mid-air. His resemblance was uncanny. Every movement, every expression mirrored the dead empress. Nero introduced him as, "My dear Sabina." Guests applauded, smiled, raised glasses, not from joy, but from fear. Yet witnesses noticed imperfections. Large hands, broad shoulders, occasional slips in voice, and fleeting traces of Sporus's true personality. Wit, sorrow, humor emerged. Any deviation invited psychological punishment. Nero coldly warned he would find a better Poppaea. At the beginning of 67 AD, Nero married Sporus in a lavish state ceremony. Saffron-colored veil, legal contracts, immense dowries. The elite applauded and smiled, knowing the alternative was death. Daily life became an endless performance. Sporus awoke in Poppaea's room, dressed, styled, and coached. Nero took his wife everywhere: ceremonies, theater, races. Sporus sat in the empress's box, traveled in her palanquin, and received honors fitting in Augusta. Privately, however, horror deepened. Nero demanded Poppaea's preferences, reactions, and private jokes be mirrored perfectly. The servant staff sometimes found Sporus standing alone at dawn, silent, as if existence itself depended on performance. She began referring to herself as Poppaea, even alone. In mirrors, she spoke with 2 voices, her own and the forced feminine tone. Boundaries blurred, perhaps the only way her mind could cope. In spring 68 AD, Nero's world collapsed. Rebellion erupted. The Senate declared him an enemy. Sporus accompanied him as he fled Rome. Facing capture, Nero chose suicide, guided by Sporus, the only act of mercy in their twisted bond. After Nero's death, Sporus passed from emperor to emperor: Galba, Otho, Vitellius. Vitellius demanded he perform in the Colosseum, reenacting a violent legend before death. Faced with this fate, Sporus seized control of his end. Accounts vary: poison or self-inflicted wounds, but all agree he died by his own hand, finally freed from the role forced upon him. He was around 20 years old. The tragedy of Sporus raises profound questions about identity and absolute power. A life systematically destroyed to serve another's obsession. A living ghost forced to imitate someone he never knew. Even more disturbing, complicity. Physicians, teachers, courtiers, servants, hundreds participated, prioritizing survival over humanity. In Roman history, Sporus is a footnote, yet he endured unimaginable suffering and ultimately chose freedom over humiliation. The ruins of Nero's palace still stand in Rome. Among them lie the rooms where Sporus lived his stolen life. Stones remember the child forced to become a ghost, even if history has forgotten. If this story has moved you, share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more hidden history revealing the extremes of human behavior. These stories deserve to be told.